The Revelation Explained by F. G. Smith. Chapter 6, Part 5. We begin with the Book of Revelation, Chapter 6, verses 9 through 11. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God, and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. We continue now with the commentary. Upon the opening of this seal, the scene changes entirely. No more horsemen appear, but instead the souls of the martyrs are seen at the altar, crying for vindication of their blood upon the cruel oppressors of earth. The question arises, are these souls symbols of something else? Or are they what they are here stated to be, the souls of them that were slain? Evidently the latter, appearing under their own name and character, because they cannot properly be symbolized. They were disembodied spirits, and where is there anything of analogous character to represent such? Angels cannot, for whenever they are employed as symbols, it is to designate distinguished agencies among men. They, therefore, appear under their own appropriate title as the souls of them that were slain. These souls appeared under the altar, that is, at the foot of the altar, being the same as that described in chapter 8, verse 3. Quote, And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. End quote. Thus, the heavenly world, as opened up before John, appeared symbolized after the sanctuary of the temple in which stood the golden altar, or altar of incense. Some have supposed that the brazen altar was to one referred to, signifying the living sacrifice these souls made of themselves to God. But there is no altar mentioned in the symbols except the golden altar. Besides, these were not sacrificial victims, for Christ was made a complete sacrifice for sin, while these only suffered martyrdom because of their faithfulness to the cause of Christ. It is much more reasonable to suppose that their interceding cries went up from the golden altar, where the prayers of all saints ascended with much incense. Their prayers to God for the avenging of their blood shows the expectation on their part that the judgments of heaven would descend upon the cruel and haughty persecutors and oppressors of earth, and their surprise was that the day of retribution had been so long delayed. The history of the Church, as developed under the preceding seals, gives particular force to this cry of the martyrs. For nearly 3 centuries, the civil power of pagan Rome had been employed to crush the cause of God. During 10 terrible seasons of persecution, they had been crucified, slain with the sword, sawn asunder, devoured by beasts in the arena, and given to the flames. When Constantine, a nominal Christian emperor, ascended the throne and protected religion by law, it was believed that persecutions must cease. but soon the discovery was made that the sword had only changed hands, there having risen an ecclesiastical hierarchy destined to glut itself upon the blood of which heathen Rome had only tasted. The world was now made the arena for the terrible coursings of the pale horsemen, and the beasts of the earth were let loose to fall with savage fury upon the helpless victims, until millions lost their lives at the instigation of the apostate Church of Rome. Is it any wonder that the souls of these martyrs should cry unto God for the vindication of their righteous blood? It is said that white robes were given unto every one of them. By referring to chapter 3, verse 4, chapter 7, verse 9, chapter 13 and 14, it will be seen that white garments and white robes are sometimes used as a symbol to describe a part of the heavenly inheritance. The martyr saints, although impatient at the delay of avenging judgment, received a righteous reward. But the period of tribulation to the church was not yet over. The cup of iniquity in the hands of her enemies was not yet full, and they were told to rest for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. The account given seems to indicate an important epoch, a period in which the martyrs had reason to expect the vindication of their righteous blood, but which, instead, was to be followed by another great period of persecution. Considering the time of the events already described in this series of prophecy, we have no difficulty in fixing the chronology of this event at the dividing point between the era of papal supremacy and the age of Protestantism, or at the Reformation of the 16th century. Did severe slaughter and persecution follow the Reformation? Witness the reign of Mary Tudor, frequently styled, quote, Bloody Mary, end quote. During 3 years of her reign, in 1555 to 1558, 288 were burnt alive in England. Think of the inhuman massacre of the innocent Waldenses of southern France by the violent bigot Oppide in 1545, who slew 800 men in one town and thrust the women into a barn filled with straw and reduced the whole to ashes. Only a sample of his barbarity, or of their oppression. In southern Italy by Pope Pius IV, 1560, at whose command they were slain by thousands, the throats of 88 men being cut on one occasion by a single executioner. Witness the horrible massacre of St. Bartholomew in Paris, August 21st, 1572, when the Queen Dowager, the infamous Catherine de Medici, lured immense numbers of the innocent Huguenots into the city under the pretext of witnessing a marriage between the Huguenot Henry, King of Navarre, and the sister of Charles IX, King of France. When the gates were closed and the work of wholesale slaughter began at a given signal and raged for 3 days, during which time from 6 to 10,000 were butchered in Paris alone. Think of the rivers of blood in the Netherlands, where the Duke of Alva boasted that in the short space of 6 weeks he had put 18,000 to death. Witness the dragooning methods and other inhuman persecutions to wear out the saints of the Most High God, that followed the revocation of the Edict of Nantes in 1685 by Louis XIV, King of France, during whose reign 300,000 were brutally butchered, while Pope Innocent XI extolled the king by special letter as follows, quote, "The Catholic Church shall most assuredly record in her sacred annals a work of such devotion toward her, and celebrate your name with never-dying praises for this most excellent undertaking." End quote. My heart sickens with horror in the contemplation of such events. Eternal God, can thy righteous eye behold such heart-rending scenes of earth, and thy hand of power not be extended to humble to the dust these cruel, haughty oppressors of thy people?